In January 1932, El Salvador experienced one of the most painful and silenced episodes in its history. La Matanza, the massacre, a brutal crackdown on an indigenous and peasant uprising that left between 10,000 and 30,000 people dead, most of them from indigenous communities. The country was in the midst of a deep economic crisis brought on by the Great Depression, which had caused coffee prices, El Salvador's main export, to collapse, plunging the rural population into extreme poverty. In this context of desperation, a popular rebellion broke out, driven by land dispossession, social oppression, and the exhaustion of decades of exclusion. The uprising was inspired and partly led by Agustín Farabundo Martí, a communist intellectual and political activist who had worked with peasant and indigenous communities. Although Martí was arrested before the revolt began, insurgent actions broke out in the western departments of Cincinnati and Ahuachapán. Rebels attacked military barracks and public buildings, seeking to take local control and protest against structural injustice. But the government of General Maximiliano Hernández Martínez, then president, responded with overwhelming violence. The response was disproportionate. The army and authorities launched a systematic crackdown, executing thousands of people without trial. Most of the victims were indigenous, identified by their language, traditional dress, or community ties. Entire villages were wiped out. This massacre not only had devastating human consequences but also left a deep scar on the country's cultural identity. In the aftermath, many indigenous communities stopped speaking their native languages, wearing traditional clothing, or identifying as indigenous, out of fear of future persecution. For decades, La Matanza was erased from history books and rarely discussed in public life. Only during the civil conflict in the second half of the 20th century was this event brought back into collective memory, as a symbol of resistance, the fight for social justice, and a stark example of systemic racism. The 1932 massacre remains a key moment for understanding El Salvador's historical inequality and the roots of social unrest that would fuel future conflicts. Remembering it is an act of dignity, memory, and commitment to human rights.